Very rarely do artists get the chance to truly reinvent themselves the way Ariana Grande did a little over 5 years ago with Sweetener. Sweetener marked her 4th record, coming off 3 very solid successful records, including Dangerous Woman, yet for some fans, particularly her younger fans, it was their first true era standing Ari. I recall this era marked her first cycle where she had true cultural impact beyond her music making. In this video, we'll discuss the lead up to the Sweetener era, the era itself, and how it shook out. We'll discuss why exactly it really served to reset Ari's image as an artist and a celebrity, and the tracks themselves before assigning the record a score. The lead up to Sweetener. 2016 marked the release of Dangerous Woman, Ariana Grande's 3rd studio album, which came just 4 years into her mainstream music career. Grande was on a Rihanna album a year sort of schedule, consistently churning out hits and charting. As I mentioned in my Thank You Next Imperial Era video, it marked the 3rd and final album of her Black and White trilogy. It was also the era that followed her I Hate Americans donut-licking controversy, which in hindsight felt more like a nothing burger than any modern controversy nowadays regarding a pop star. Peaking at number 2 on the Billboard 200, her first and only record to miss the summit, Dangerous Woman was still her biggest smash record up until that point. It yielded 2 top 10 hits and Into You, which was done extremely dirty domestically. Dangerous Woman was a pop R&B record executively produced by Max Martin and Sivan Koteka, which critics noted a vast improvement over her scattered predecessor My Everything, but they still said that Grande needed a bit more work as an albums artist. Grande would begin work on Sweetener as early as July of that same year with Pharrell Williams, even claiming that she had finished an album, though she would clarify that it was more a collection of songs that she really liked. Grande would continue to work on the record while touring Dangerous Woman in 2017. The way that things were going, Ari was going to keep her prolific cycle going. However, tragedy struck on May 22nd, 2017 when a terrorist attack injured hundreds and took 22 lives towards the end of her Manchester show. Ari was not harmed, but felt an immense sense of grief and compassion for her fans, eventually organizing the One Love Manchester benefit concert to support victims and their families. The event raised millions and brought together a very star-studded roster. Grande would go on to wrap up the Dangerous Woman tour and continue work on Sweetener. At the very end of the year, she would tease the album closer Get Well Soon through Instagram before going on a social media break for months. Her then manager, Scooter Brown, noted that songs on this record would define her. It was time for her song to be sung. Martin and Koteka would rejoin Ari towards the end of the recording sessions. Ari would return to social media on April 18th, just 2 days before releasing No Tears Left to Cry on 4/20/2018. No Tears Left to Cry, produced by Martin and Ilya, spoke to Grande's journey overcoming the pain and trauma of Manchester while trying to find light in her life. I adored its pseudo-UK garage production, the powerful lyricism, and Grande's powerhouse vocals, and so did the critics. The song was blocked from number 1, however, due to Drake's Nice for What and God's Plan's dominance, but it still debuted at number 3. Grande's streak of having all of her album lead singles debut in the top 10 is still intact to this date. Side note, she's the only artist thus far to keep the streak going for 7 records with Yes and. The music video, directed by Dave Meyers, sees Grande shifting her perspective, literally seeing her survive gravity shifts and shifting realities with resilience. Ari would reveal the album's title as well as its length and collaborators. She'd also announced the album pre-order and a promo single, The Light Is Coming, at Wango Tango. I'll never forget the album art being slowly revealed via Instagram post. Shot by David Meyers himself, it marked Grande's first in-color cover art and was made upside down due to a comment her friends said that they'd love it upside down. Grande went with an upside down look to represent how her world had shifted. It was also around this time in May that Grande started her whirlwind romance and eventual engagement to Pete Davidson. In July, Grande would unveil God Is a Woman, the second single, surprise dropping it on the 13th of that month, which peaked at number 8. This trap pop song about liberation and femininity went on to become one of the most defining songs of that summer and would be nominated for a Grammy. The music video saw Grande literally the center of the universe with a really cool space theme influencing the earth as God. It was a spellbinding music video that captured attention and serves as one of the more visual iconic moments that she's had so far. Release and legacy. The album would drop on August 17th, debuting at number 1 with 231,000 sales. Streams for the album were so strong that 10 out of the 15 tracks would chart on the Hot 100. Critically, it marked a new high for Ariana Grande, as critics universally noted that it was her best record so far, her most mature and adventurous work up until that point, some even calling it the best pop record to drop that year. Some criticism was levied at the less cohesive nature of the record. I recall some discourse over some preferring the Martin portions to the Pharrell productions and vice versa. Regardless, it made many year-end lists and even won Best Pop Vocal Album, marking Grande's first ever win at the Grammys. To promote the record, Grande would embark on the Sweetener Sessions, a 3-date concert series. She would go on to release Breathing as the final single of the era. Breathing marked one of her more signature tracks and spoke to the anxiety that she faced, very much taking place over a panic attack lyrically. The song sees her making mantras to ground herself. Grande would eventually pause and end the era upon the passing of her ex Max Miller, returning to the studio shortly and producing Thank You Next, which dropped just months after. Grande would go on to tour both records under her Sweetener World Tour. One thing to note was that Sweetener helped cement trap's growing influence over the late 2010s pop landscape, but it also marked Grande's first distinct era where it wasn't just gays and girls talking about her. Grande had captured the general public's heart and interest, many tracking her whirlwind romance with Pete Davidson at the time or emulating her fashion and style. Many commended her for her bravery in speaking about mental health and her own personal issues. Grande's mantra, searching for love, life, and meaning, didn't make her music feel distinctly of the era or trend hoppy. If anything, Grande had become the most authentic pop girl at that moment. Again, speaking about her mental health, being candid and transparent about her struggles, and really the music being a healing medium for her distinguished her from her peers. Through interviews, her visuals, and social media, Grande had really built a crystal clear identity as a pop star. She became relatable, she became human in a way that very few people in the pop music space could ever be. I like to believe that Sweetener worked as a reintroduction to Arianators and a proper hello to the general public in a way that very few artists just don't get. Sweetener was a true reset for Grande. Now we're going to talk about the music itself. Sweetener is my personal favorite of Ariana Grande's records. I always felt that there was a reasonable distance in her previous works. Yours truly spoke to her dedication to the R&B genre, and My Everything and Dangerous Woman proved her range as an artist. It was never in question that Ariana Grande was born to do this. Her vocals were made for the pop space, the stage, and soon film itself with Wicked. However, Sweetener really did feel like the first time that we got Ariana in the driver's seat the entire way. She's credited on all but one track, which was a cover of An Angel Cried by the Four Seasons. And while the album doesn't really have a cohesive sound, with some of the more significant tracks actually being reworks of previous artists' unreleased demos, or even just outright covers of songs that exist, every track still feels significantly like Ari had a part in its creation. One of the most defining hallmarks of this record was how daring Ariana Grande was. Not every song feels perfectly machined to be a radio hit. Up until this record, there was always this tight grip on perfection, whether it be the production or her own vocals. Here she willingly makes detours that don't always add up, but still feel earned. The album starts with Raindrops, An Angel Cried, a gorgeous a cappella cover of An Angel Cried by the Four Seasons. Grande initially recorded it with the intention of maybe turning it into a sample or a chop, but Max insisted that they leave it as is. I think that it's arresting and continues Grande's tradition of setting the tone with the intro. Blaze with Pharrell covers Infatuation from a celestial angle. On this luxurious instrumental, Grande and Pharrell serve two catchy different hooks. She really sets up this motif about Sweetener taking place in a dream. I think of that line, I thought I was dreaming till my love came around. Verse 1 sets up the serendipity of how lucky she is that the universe introduced her to her love, but it's almost tragic considering Thank You Next's tracks, Never Let You Go being repeated so often in the song speaks to trying to hold on to this person and the positivity that they bring. The Light Is Coming with Nicki Minaj is another Pharrell production which received mixed reviews at the time. Its production is very unique and contoured in a way that Minaj really shows off her skill by floating on her short verse. The sample of former Senator Arlen Specter's anger over healthcare really grounds this in a political light. I think that it's a cheeky, ranty song that playfully shades Grande's detractors and possibly an ex-lover who blew all of his chances. It's a dense playground of sound and light. I never quite settled whether or not I liked it, but I do appreciate its boldness. REM, short for Rapid Eye Movement, is one of Grande's best tracks. Initially, it started as a scrap Beyonce demo, Wake Up, but Grande and Pharrell really just kept the chorus. This song directly deals with the idea of Grande using dream imagery as a way to protect herself and her vision. She's had this dream that she's fallen in love with someone and she doesn't want to wake up. Verse 2 feels more like musical theater than pop song, with the excuse me, I love you feeling like dialogue. She really shows her hand and how she's fallen, while verse 3 has that same energy with a dash of passion in there. They have this chemistry, but she doesn't want a one-night stand. It's iconic in the sense that Grande actually did name her makeup line after this track, so it is a significant RE track in the canon. God is a Woman may have started as a demo that at one point was cut by Camila Cabello, but Grande really makes it her own. It's this pointed song that really gave RE the space to show her sensuality and prod at a larger conversation about gender politics. Texturally, this track is about Grande taking control of how she's loved. The pre-chorus in particular speaks to stereotypes about how women are and who she is. I find that the layering on the song is both divine sounding and meaningful, like there's seemingly millions of voices in the back, because it's meant to evoke a sense of solidarity between women and unity within the universe. Grande really elevated the track. The title track Sweetener is a smash for me. It's this trap pop slice of positivity with a splash of horny in there. The pre-chorus really speaks to bringing joy and light to people's lives. As Sweetener brings the level of bitterness down, it tricks you into believing that the song is going to be a ballad, but then the chorus comes in and shifts to a bop it instructional piece about how to hit it, flip it, twist it, mix it. It's a very fun, soulful R&B track with, again, some really cool instrumental work. Pharrell and Ari were a winning combination. They were not making radio-friendly smashes, but they were making some really fun, wild pop where Ariana gets to actually spread her wings a bit. Successful continues Grande and Pharrell's collaborations, but this one's a bit more straightforward. I'm grateful for my success at this young age and all the world that has given me sort of vibes on this one. I like the fact that she points this positivity towards the listener. It's like, oh, you can do this too, even though when I first heard this track, I was a jobless college grad stuck in his hometown. But yeah, while I was listening to the song, I felt like a baller for sure. Every Time returns us to Max and Ilya's production, and this one's a special track for me. I thought that it would have been a really good single choice. There's a lot of hooks in here, from the repetition of Back to You at the start to the chorus itself, which has a really fun rhyme scheme. Why oh why does God keep bringing me back to you? It's this really fun push and pull song that has some weight and darkness that it really adds to Sweetener. She knows that this romance is bad for her, but she keeps on coming back, and those ad-libs amazing, and the final chorus where she belts was just next level when I saw her live on the Sweetener tour. I always considered it not being a single money on the table. Breathe In opens with a reverse sample of But Tonight's Your Special Night to Do Something Magical, which I thought was pretty neat. This track most resembles a traditional pop song, yet the verses and the messaging about her talking about her experiences really does make it work. The first verse feels very universal, and the pre-chorus about her PTSD prefabricating her feelings is a really fascinating thing to imagine. The discussions of mental health on this record are what elevate it. The chorus itself is an elegant yet emotional meditation technique. It's very simple and also applicable to your own life. It's very rare to see an artist of this popularity openly talk about being dissociated and having panic attacks. This song is canonized for me because of its honesty. No Tears Left to Cry is literally my personal all-time favorite Ariana single, possibly song. It's this gorgeous, sweeping track about moving on from dark times. It acknowledges the pain, yet it strives to move on. I just want you to come with me, we on another mentality. It speaks to this universal grief and depressive cast that the world has. I think the repetition of picking it up really speaks to the struggles of trying to pick yourself out of a tough place and how oftentimes it really is just committing it to your mind. There's a tragic undertone to the song textually, but Grande's performance again really adds this hopeful and magical context to it. Borderline is one of the more underrated and understated tracks. I thought that Ariana and Missy Elliott really make the most of Pharrell's production. It's songs like these that really lit the path for her Positions record, which was a hard turn towards the R&B sound, particularly in the deep cuts. I always took the Meet Me at the Borderline line to be a direct homage to Madonna's iconic track. Better Off returns to the more melancholic, reflective nature of her work. She'd been hesitant to keep this track, as a version of it had been in the works since 2016, though she'd go on to recontextualize it in the wake of her personal life at the release, with some thinking that it was about Mac Miller. Regardless, it feels like an epilogue to Every Time thematically. I really like the mellow production, which really speaks to the hopelessness and toxicity of the situation that she's exiting. Goodnight and Go is a remake of Imogen Heap's Goodnight and Go, though the production has really been redone. The first verse really reworks it into a more sensual and grounded song where she again invokes the dream metaphor. I think that Sweetener really anchors itself around this idea of escapism through romance, through dreaming, and Thank You Next speaks to having to wake up from all of that. The rest of the song interpolates the classic, but with Grande's spin on the vocals, but the outro is really the heavenly thing that you sit with because it's really haunting. You know, it's just this thing that really got to me emotionally on a level where, like, I think I almost started to cry the first time that I properly heard it. I totally get why Grande would eventually come to remove the song off her setlist for personal reasons, but also because this is a tough song to sing. And who can forget Pete Davidson, the song named after her then fiance, which is a short little ode to her love, her former love, and how he helped her cope with so much. I think that it's a really lovely and well-produced track, and in spite of its title aging relatively poorly, I think it's a really great interlude for the album's closer. Get Well Soon is the crown jewel on the record. It's a very dense and masterful song that captures the feeling of being lost on every level. I feel like it is the thesis statement, the summary of the entire Sweetener experience. From the opening lines about being overloaded and feeling out of body and alone to the chorus where it really just sits down and reminds everyone to take care of themselves, to really start talking about mental health and seek means to express your concerns. Even the ad-libs have like a lot of purpose to them. They speak to this feeling of depersonalization that she had, which is a very stealthy thing that a lot of people feel. A lot of regular people are depersonalized from their own lives and they don't even recognize it. My personal favorite part of the song is the bridge, which really does acknowledge that there are ups and downs and drops in life, but it's really also the refrain where she sings, "I'll be right there to just hug you," which speaks to why she made the song and the album in the first place. One thing that I will always love about Sweetener is that she's sharing what she's learned emerging from dark times. She wants to share this light with us, but also to remind us to make peace with the dark in our lives. I gave Thank You Next a 10 out of 10 for its cultural impact and how airtight that record had been. And I have to give Sweetener that same score, but on different merits, on the merit of its meaningful lyricism and the body of work itself resonating with me. Sweetener, for me, is still Ari's defining record on all fronts. I think that it is a true pop marvel born out of tragedy, authenticity, and real magic. 10 out of 10. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in to yet another entry of my Ariana Grande series. If you liked it, subscribed, liked the video, comment your favorite song or moment from the era. I love interacting with you guys, and I want to give a quick shout out to my members. Thank you so much for directly supporting my channel through your membership. To all my subscribers, that means a lot to me already. Hit the notification bell for the next videos, my upcoming podcast episodes. Sweetener was something that I always wanted to cover, but I never really got the chance to because I started my channel literally on the day that Sweetener had come out, and this wasn't a pop channel. This used to be a movie channel a long, long time ago. So full circle coming back to this right before Eternal Sunshine comes out is really funny to me, and I am still forever grateful for this channel. I think this is the one thing in my life that's objectively going well, and I am glad that you guys are a part of it. So I will see you next video. Thank you so much. I'm just gonna stop. See ya!